All right, get ready to dive deep, everyone. Today, we're taking on artificial general intelligence.
Yeah, AGI, definitely some pretty deep waters.
We've been digging through a whole stack of sources, academic papers, articles, even a piece from a real estate appraisal company. And they're all asking the same question. Are we like on the edge of a total tech revolution?
Well, we've got some powerful forces kind of coming together right now. AI, biotech, nanotech, it's all moving so fast.
Right, like crazy fast.
Definitely a moment with a ton of potential. And let's be honest about this,
Oh,
some
yeah.
pretty wild implications too.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. We hear AGI everywhere these days,
Yeah.
but one of our sources kind of nails down a definition, and it's not just like AI being as smart as people.
Right.
It's about AI that can learn and adapt,
Oh, yeah.
and maybe even, evolve beyond our control.
That's the scary part.
Right. It's about machines that can do anything we can intellectually and maybe even better.
And that's the core of it, right? And this is where things get super interesting. Another source points out, just being smart isn't enough. For real AGI, a system has to perform at a really high level, consistently. So it's not just about being smart, it's about being reliable.
So, like, just knowing all the chess moves doesn't make you a grandmaster.
Exactly.
It's about strategy and intuition and making the right move at the right time.
Yeah,
Every time, AGI needs that same level of mastery.
absolutely, yeah. And that kind of leads us to the big question everyone's asking. Are these big language models we're seeing, GPT-4, Bard, Llama 2, are those actually AGI already? I mean, they can write code, they can compose music, they can analyze scientific data. It's pretty remarkable.
Oh, yeah, totally. Even just I use them to help with email sometimes. It's almost creepy how good they are. But one of the papers we read makes this argument. It says, okay, these LLMs, they're super versatile, but they're not quite AGI yet because their performance, even though it's amazing, it's not always reliable.
It's like they're giving us these glimpses of what true AGI could be, but the picture's still blurry.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then we have to ask, well, how do we even interact with these increasingly complex AI systems?
That's a good point. I mean, it's not like we're having coffee with them, right?
Right. No casual chats yet.
Not yet. Okay.
One paper we looked at introduced this idea of autonomy levels. It's a way to describe how humans and AI might interact, as AI keeps evolving.
Oh, interesting. Okay, tell me about these autonomy levels.
So the first level is AI as a tool.
Mm.
And this is basically where we are now. AI is helping us with tasks, making things more efficient, but we're the ones in control. Think spell check,
Right.
translation apps, stuff like that.
Yeah, got it. So it's like AI is a helpful assistant, but it's not calling the shots.
Right, exactly.
Okay, what's the next level?
Okay, so level 2 is AI as a consultant. Here, AI gets a little more active. It's giving us deeper insights, making recommendations, but we're still the ones asking the questions. So imagine using AI to analyze, like a massive data set, or to generate code based on your specific instructions.
Mm.
So we still make the final call,
Right.
but AI is giving us some serious guidance.
So AI is stepping it up, offering more than just basic help.
Right.
Interesting. Okay, what's next?
Then we get to level 3, and this is where it gets really cool. It's called AI as a collaborator. Now we're talking about a real partnership between humans and AI working together on tough problems, like as equals.
Wow, that sounds kind of like sci-fi movie stuff. What would that look like in the real world, though?
Well, imagine scientists and AI working together to develop new treatments,
Uh-huh.
or engineers collaborating with AI to design like way safer transportation. The paper even talks about training for chess with an AI grandmaster. So AI is analyzing your game and helping you come up with strategies.
Whoa, that's wild. Yeah, I can see how that kind of collaboration could lead to like some amazing breakthroughs, but it also sounds like it could get, I don't know, maybe a little complicated.
Yeah, and that's why the paper makes a big point about the importance of designing those interactions carefully.
Right.
As AI becomes more autonomous, we really have to think about the potential risks, and we need to build in safeguards.
Okay, so risks like what? Don't leave me hanging.
Well, think about it. If you're relying on AI to help you make big decisions,
Yeah.
you need to be sure that AI really understands the situation,
Hmm.
like the ethical parts of it,
Uh-huh.
and that its recommendations actually line up with your goals.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. We can't just blindly trust whatever advice AI throws at us.
Exactly.
Got it.
All right, so moving on to level 4, we've got AI as an expert. Now, AI is taking the lead on more complex tasks. It's driving the interaction while humans are providing oversight, and guidance. So imagine AI spearheading scientific research or managing like these really intricate financial systems.
So we're giving AI a little more control, but we're still keeping an eye on things.
Exactly. That's the basic idea. And then finally, we get to level 5. This is a big one. AI is an agent. Now we're talking about fully autonomous AI. It can act independently, make its own decisions.
Okay, now this is where we get into like Terminator territory, right? Are we
Right.
talking about self-aware robots running the world?
Not quite yet. But the paper gives the example of a fully autonomous AI personal assistant. Like imagine an AI that manages your whole life, your
Yeah.
schedule, your finances, travel arrangements,
Uh-huh.
all without you lifting a finger.
Okay, that sounds amazing and maybe a tiny bit terrifying all at the same time. Like
No
there's
doubt.
so much trust involved.
For sure. It's definitely a level of AI autonomy that brings up a lot of questions
Yeah.
about control, responsibility, even what it means to be human.
No kidding. But thinking about these different levels is a good way to, I don't know, just to wrap our heads around how our relationship with AI could evolve.
Definitely. It gives us a framework, not just for the potential benefits, but also, the potential risks as AI gets more and more sophisticated.
Hmm.
And speaking of evolution, that brings us to another big concept we need to unpack, the singularity.
Ah, the singularity. Now we're really getting into the sci-fi stuff. Lay on me. What's it all about? Okay, the singularity. It does sound kind of like straight out of a movie, you know?
It does.
But it's an idea that like people have been seriously talking about for a while.
Oh, for decades, yeah. Scientists, philosophers, futurists, they've all been captivated by it. The basic idea is that at some point, AI becomes like way smarter than us.
Right.
And that kicks off this crazy, fast acceleration of tech progress that we might not even be able to control.
So we're talking about like a point where AI isn't just smarter than us, but it's making AI that's even smarter. And then what? Like, is that when the machines take over?
Well, that's one scenario when it gets a lot of attention.
Right.
But it's not the only possibility, right? One of our sources, a presentation on the singularity, mentions Ray Kurzweil, the futurist.
Yeah.
He thinks it could happen, like, by the middle of the century.
Yeah.
But it's not just, robots taking over.
Hmm.
It's about the pace of change being so fast, so huge, that it changes literally everything about human life.
Okay, so maybe it's less like a robot uprising and more like a, I don't know, a tech tsunami that just reshapes the whole world.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to
Yeah.
put it. And this presentation points to 3 main technologies that are pushing us toward this possible singularity. We've already talked about AI and machine learning,
Right.
but there's also biotech and genetic engineering. Things like CRISPR, which basically let us edit the code of life itself.
Right, and we're seeing those advancements right now too, new gene therapies, personalized medicine, even like the idea that we could live longer. It's
Exactly.
pretty mind-blowing.
It is. And then you've got nanotech and materials science,
Mm.
which could lead to things like tiny robots that can fix cells or create materials with like properties we can't even imagine.
So we've got all these super powerful technologies,
Yeah.
all advancing incredibly fast. It does feel like we're heading towards something big.
Guys.
But let's get practical. What would a post-singularity world actually be like? I mean, what would it mean for us, for society?
It's a question that gets people speculating and debating a lot.
Yeah.
This presentation, it looks at some potential impacts in a few key areas. Economically, it says, we might see like a lot of jobs disappear
Oh, yeah.
as AI starts to automate tasks that humans are doing now.
Right. That's something I've heard about even outside of like the whole singularity context. Automation's already changing the
Yeah.
job market.
Yeah.
So like what happens when AI can do even more?
Yeah, exactly. But the presentation says it's not just about jobs going away. It predicts that we'll see like whole new industries pop up, stuff we can't even think of right now.
Okay.
And it really emphasizes that we need to focus on retraining people and helping them develop skills that complement AI rather than like trying to compete with it.
Okay, so retraining and being able to adapt are going to be crucial. But what about like the social side of things? If our relationship with technology gets even deeper, I imagine that would have a huge impact, right?
Definitely. This presentation talks about how education could be totally transformed.
Uh-huh.
Personalized learning delivered through AI. Work would be this seamless collaboration between humans and machines. It even talks about social media and VR becoming so integrated into our lives that they're basically just reality.
Whoa, that is a lot to process.
Right.
And I haven't even mentioned the like philosophical and ethical questions that a post-singularity world would bring up, right?
Right, huge questions.
Yeah.
And this presentation digs into those too. What does being human even mean if AI is more intelligent than us?
Hmm.
What happens if AI develops consciousness? Is it ethical to give so much decision-making power to machines?
Okay, now my head is spinning. This is going way beyond just technology. Like, we're talking about redefining what it means to be human.
Exactly. It forces us to confront some fundamental questions about our place in the universe, about what intelligence and consciousness really are.
So if the singularity is a real possibility, what can we actually do to prepare? How do we make sure it benefits humanity?
Well, that is the big question, isn't it?
Mm.
And honestly, there's no easy answer. This presentation doesn't give us any like step-by-step instructions for navigating the singularity,
Right.
but it really emphasizes the need for awareness. Thinking about the implications, having serious conversations about it, and making choices about how we develop and use these technologies.
Okay, so awareness, dialogue, careful choices, all good things.
Right.
But what about like specific actions? What can we actually do to get ready for this potential future?
Well, one of our other sources is a paper that looks at the impact of AI on real estate appraisers.
Oh, okay.
It offers a really interesting, like, real-world example that might give us some clues.
Hold on, real estate
Yeah,
appraisers? How do we go from the singularity to like appraisers?
I know. It seems like a jump, but bear with me. This paper says AGI could totally change the appraisal profession. Imagine AI that can look at property data, understand market conditions, and, like, come up with property values super fast and really accurately.
So you're saying appraisers are going to be replaced by robots?
It's not necessarily about replacement. It's more like a transformation.
Yeah.
The paper suggests appraisers will have to adapt. They'll have to focus on stuff that AI can't do, like providing deeper insights and making judgments that require human experience. So they might become more like decapharmaties or consultants or specialists.
Okay, so it's more about upskilling and finding ways to work with AI instead of just being replaced by it.
Exactly. And I think this example actually tells us something important about the singularity in general. It's not just about what AI can do, it's about how we decide to use it, how we integrate it into our lives and our work.
So the appraiser example is kind of like a mini version of the bigger challenge we face with the singularity. If even appraisers have to adapt, then like everyone does.
Yeah, exactly. But before we get too carried away thinking about the impact of the singularity,
Hmm.
there's something else we need to remember. There are also things that could slow it down
Mm.
or even prevent it from happening at all.
Oh, really? So like roadblocks to the whole singularity scenario. What are those?
Well, one of our papers calls them defeaters,
Hmm.
and it breaks them down into a few different categories. First, you have structural obstacles, basically limits on what's physically or computationally possible. Like maybe there's a limit to how smart we can make machines,
Okay.
or maybe we hit a wall with processing power or material science.
So it's like hitting a tech ceiling.
Yeah, something like that.
Interesting. Okay, what else?
Then there are correlation obstacles. This is the idea that even if we build super intelligent AI, it doesn't automatically mean they'll be good at everything.
Right.
Like, they might be amazing at logic and problem solving,
Right.
but they might not have common sense or emotional intelligence
Hmm.
or that creative spark that we think of as being human.
Right. Because like being a genius at chess doesn't necessarily make you a great artist.
Exactly. There's more to intelligence than just raw power.
Right. Okay, so what else?
Then you've got situational defeaters. These are things that happen outside of our control that could just interrupt technological progress,
Hmm.
like a global pandemic
Hmm.
or resource scarcity, natural disasters, maybe even like a big war. Basically, stuff that could throw a wrench in the whole thing.
Okay, yeah, so like things that could hit the pause button on all this tech advancement.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
So what's the last category?
All right, the last one is motivational defeaters. And this one's really interesting because it brings human choice into the picture.
Hmm.
It's the idea that we, as a society, might decide that, you know what, AGI is just too risky,
Uh-huh.
and we put the brakes on development.
Right.
Or, and this is where it gets really mind-blowing, maybe the AI systems themselves decide they don't want to create AI that's even smarter than them.
Wow, that's a crazy thought. So you're saying the future of AI might depend not just on like technology, but on the choices we make. And maybe even the choices AI makes.
It definitely adds a whole other layer to the singularity discussion.
For sure. Okay, so this brings us to what I think is probably the most important question here. If we're talking about navigating this whole uncharted territory and making sure AGI and maybe the singularity is a good thing for humanity,
Right. Yeah.
what strategies can we use to actually make that happen?
That's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, we don't have all the answers yet. But our sources do offer some interesting ideas. The paper on the singularity, it really emphasizes aligning AI systems with human values.
Hmm.
So as AI evolves, we need to make sure it prioritizes things like human well-being and peace and sustainability.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we do that? How do
Yep.
we program those values into AI? It's not like we can just give them a lecture on ethics.
Right. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
The paper suggests a couple of different ways. First, maybe we try to directly program those values into the AI. Basically create a moral code for machines.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's really tough because it means we have to define really complicated things like
Mm.
well-being and justice in a way that AI can understand.
Yeah, because what might seem obvious to us, it might not translate to algorithms and data.
Exactly.
So what's the other approach?
The other way is to shape AI's values through learning and evolution. So we design environments and training data that encourage the AI to develop values that are similar to ours. Kind of like raising the kid.
Yeah.
You guide their development by giving them positive reinforcement,
Mm.
exposing them to certain
So
experiences.
it's like shaping their moral compass.
Exactly. But the paper also says that even if we do all that, there's no guarantee that AI will keep those values as it keeps evolving. There's always the chance of unintended consequences.
Yeah, that's kind of scary to think about. AI could change in ways that we don't even expect.
Right, exactly. And that's why this other idea, which comes up in both the Singularity paper and the one on real estate appraisers, is so interesting. They both talk about uh, focusing on human-based AI systems.
You mean AI that's based on the human brain? Brain
Mm.
emulation.
Yeah, or cognitive enhancement. The idea is that since these systems are rooted in human biology and cognition,
Right.
they're more likely to share our values and our motivations. They'd be more like us. So they might be easier to understand.
Yeah, it makes sense that if AI is more human-like,
Right.
it might be easier to get them to follow our values.
And both papers also emphasize that it's important to develop and test AI in virtual environments,
Mm.
at least at first. Like a contained space
Mm-hmm.
where we can see how it behaves before we let it loose in the real world.
So it's like a better safe than sorry approach, which seems smart considering what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about balancing progress with responsibility.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that AI and the singularity, if it happens, leads to a future that's good for everyone.
Which brings us back to what we were talking about before. The choices we make now are going to shape the world of tomorrow.
Absolutely. The future isn't set in stone. It's something we create through our decisions, our innovations, and what we want to achieve together as humans.
This has been an awesome deep dive. The world of AGI and the singularity, it's pretty mind-blowing stuff. I'm not going to lie. It's a little scary, too.
It definitely makes you think.
Yeah.
It's a topic that deserves our attention. It challenges us to think about the future we want to create, what values are important to us, and what role we want tech to play in all of it.
Well said. A huge thank you to all our listeners for coming along with us on this wild ride. Keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, the future is out there, waiting to be written.
And who knows? Maybe AI will help us write it.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.